Hello, Dr. Mira, and welcome to our Living Your Soul Purpose. You are the first one to open our series of interviews, so I'm very grateful for you accepting to join us today. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Anemona, and it is privilege to be the first one. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very well, thank you. It's evening here in Japan, so I'm preparing to end the day. So this is the most beautiful um, finalizing of one working day. So yeah, pleasure.
You don't look Japanese to me. So
How is that possible? You're the
that's
first
what I
one to say that.
that's what I wonder. So how did life take you to Japan?
Okay, that's interesting story. Maybe I am from Serbia in Europe. For some people who maybe don't know where Serbia is, a small country in southeastern Europe. I finished my university there and I was working as a psychologist in elementary school. And then once I was don't remember what was the reason. I went to visit my ex university to see what's going on, and I saw a message board. And on message board, I saw this teeny little paper saying that from this year there is an opportunity for ex-students who graduated university already to apply for postdoctoral scholarship at Okayama University in Japan. And I was like, okay, how nice that is. But I never thought about applying. But a friend of mine pushed me to do that. So I applied and I was lucky. I got scholarship. I came to Japan. That was supposed to be like a year and a half or 2 years. But then I got married and now year and a half is now 22 years. So yeah, that's how I came and that's why I stayed.
So, psychology, and you
Yes.
are practicing as a psychologist. I know you are an academic as well, and you also have a therapy practice. Would you like to tell us more about that?
Um, yes, so I studied psychology all my life. I often make a joke saying I don't know anything else. But yes, I do work at the university. I teach psychology, and I also have a private therapy practice. I do research. I do some public workshops. I do many things under that umbrella of psychology. Yeah.
So, why did you become a therapist? Because, I mean, I know you are a researcher, so, and you are an academic, so that's already a full hands, let alone that you have a family and a cute dog. So, so, what motivated you to start a third career, really, or a third dimension of your career as a therapist?
I always wanted to be a therapist since I started studying psychology. The reason why I decided to study psychology was when I was in high school. I attended a workshop that was like some emotional self-care, that's how we would call it today, workshop for high school students who are kind of vulnerable group. I was vulnerable group because I was a refugee then. I was born in Bosnia and then we had a war. And when the war started in 1992, I moved to Serbia and there I finished high school. So I was like fourth grade when I came to Belgrade. And because I was that vulnerable group, being a refugee and being a teenager, and so I was invited to participate in this workshop. And the person who held the workshop, a wonderful woman, I just wanted to be like her. She was so amazing. She was so wonderful. And I wanted to do what she does. So that's what motivated me to, decide to study psychology. And it was very difficult to study psychology because in the whole country there was only one university where you could do that, which was in Belgrade University. So I was very happy when I got accepted. So when I studied, I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to study then cognitive behavioral therapy, because to me that was appealing, because basically you could study either that or some psychoanalysis, which was always very uninteresting to me. I wanted something faster with, result oriented, and then only CBT was available. So that was my goal, my plan when I was at the university. Then I started working. And when I came to Japan, then there was this language issue. How can I be a therapist here? I cannot do therapy in any language other than Serbian. That's what I thought then, because my training was in Serbian, right? So I came to Japan and I started doing research and classes, and the kids came. So I didn't really do much for that part of my work. I was doing some online counseling, but to people who are like expats, Serbian and Bosnian expats who lived in America or Europe or something. So I did that a little bit, but not until 2018 that I actually made the decision to kind of retrain and then start doing something about my old dream. Yeah.
To me, you have, and you had so far, really a spectacular life. And somehow you give this very modest, very approachable, very down to earth kind of image. But I cannot imagine, in all honesty, what does it mean to be a teenager and to live through a war? Because as we are kind of the same age or the same generation for sure, I was a teenager when the war in Yugoslavia, which was by my borders, as I grew up in Romania, was happening. And I know how affected we were to have a war at our borders, especially given that between Romania and former Yugoslavia, we always had very good relations and commercial and friendships and mixed families. So it was very much impacting on us as the country on the other side of the border to know that there was a war. So I simply cannot imagine how it was for a teenager to go through the war.
Well, from this perspective, well, when you're young, things are easier. That's one thing. Another thing is it's happening to everyone around you. You're not alone. When we think of war, it's a horrible trauma, obviously, but it's a shared trauma. We all go through it. We all talk about it. We all support each other. I had so many friends in the same shoes exactly as I was. So you process, from now therapy talk, but you process your feelings as they come, and that's how you grow. So in that sense, I don't feel I was particularly traumatized by the war itself. So I was not in the war area, in the war zone. I escaped from the war zone to Serbia. That was not in the war then. So I was refugee. And I had many friends from the same school that I was in Bosnia, but they also came to Belgrade. And then again, we went to the same school. So there was that togetherness. There was that kind of community. There were lots of help. Everybody comes to help because, it was just how it was. So imagining how would I feel, because now I'm my mother's age. When the war happened, she was that the same age like I'm now. So I'm thinking how hard it would be, how devastating it would be if my kids have to experience that, or if I have to experience it in this age. But when I was younger, then I didn't think of it as so traumatizing in that sense, just because everybody was going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I found that really an incredible experience, and also an incredible proof of the power of solidarity and the power of community. And as you said, there is a form of a joint healing in that trauma. And I know that community is something important for you also now, because as an expat, as someone living abroad, I know that you are an ambassador for your for the town where you live in, cultural ambassador. And I'm always very fascinated by the photos that you share on social media. So would you like to share something about that?
Yeah. So I live in Kobe city in Japan, and Kobe city has a program that is only available for foreigners who live in Kobe. The program is called Kobe PR Ambassadors. So you can join only if you're a foreigner, and then volunteer in a way that we introduce our city through social media. So it is a very fun way to volunteer, because you can meet people from any country, of all ages, of all jobs. And we're all there like some students, they organize sometimes some tours for us, and they bring us to some classes, for example, how to improve your photos on smartphone, or how to write better posts. So and then we just go around the city, we take photos, we introduce it to social media. It's very fun, and it teaches us, some parts of the city that we would never visit, or some history, or we meet some unusual people. We really go to unusual places. So it's very fun and very satisfying, but also having that community and friends. I think that's the most precious part of it. Yeah.
So 22 years living in Japan for a European. How is it to live in Japan? I mean, we have this romantic. I've never visited Japan, and it's big on my list, on my bucket list. And I know I have this very romanticized view about Japan as being the perfect society where everything is working perfectly, like a Swiss clock. That could be a Japanese clock. So, how is your experience for a European?
I love living in Japan. As you say, everything functions as a Swiss clock. Maybe not everything, definitely not everything, but things are on time. Things are very well structured, very well organized. Things are clean. People are very polite and nice. Everything looks beautiful. So I like living in Japan because it's peaceful. It is peaceful. It is stable. So for me, it may not be as romantic as it's for you, because for me, it's a daily life. It's just my everyday. So, but it's a beautiful country to live in.
Yeah. And it's very powerful. What I experience as I left a corporate job and living in a capital city, and I have a much simpler life now, but in a beautiful place that connects me with nature. And I just realized by doing this transition how important it is to have that soul nourishment that is somehow even subliminal, because it's about what you see when you walk out your door. What surrounds you? Are you surrounded by concrete buildings, or you are surrounded by nature and by beauty and by symmetry and by balance? which is what our soul really needs. And the opposite is actually one of the most pervasive sources of stress, which doesn't register because we are so used to it. As you said, we are so used to it that it's just like pervasive, eroding from the inside our psyche and our soul. So I think it's very important to really to live in a place that nourishes your soul by its beauty. And well, I believe that we are attracted to places that are frequency aligned to us. And if we aren't frequency aligned, then the place will kick us out. And maybe that's better, because that's what invites changes in our
Yes, I think you're right, that we are attracted by the frequency of the place. And I love where I live. I always, as a little girl, wanted to have a house with the sea view, and I grew up in Sarajevo. There's no sea, nothing. We're now in Serbia, there is no sea. In Japan, there is sea everywhere, but not until we moved here, we actually made a house at this place because it has beautiful sea view, and takes me like 10 minutes to go to the beach. Not nearly as beautiful as your beaches in Tarifa, but it can do.
beach competition is on.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very pretty place, and we have mountains just there. We have sea just there. It's beautiful island just across. I have my rainbow bridge that I can see from my window. So yeah, I really like it. Yeah.
Beautiful. So going back to your therapy practice, what modalities are you practicing?
Well, it's not same as you. You have so much many more, but I mainly practice RTT. That's what I started learning when I decided to kind of retrain as a therapist. But along the way, I get some other certifications, and I was long ago though, but trained in cognitive behavioral therapy. I client-centered counseling, those old style therapies, and also I'm picking some more modern, positive psychology, kind of counseling, coaching, all of those things, and something else, mishmash of many things, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's inevitable. I mean, I do practice rapid transformational therapy as well, which is a trauma-informed hypnotherapy method. And I think it's inevitable that we make it our own, because we bring in a mix of everything that we are and everything that we learned and that we picked up along the way.
Absolutely.
Do you have a specialization, a niche, or a particular type of issues that you work with?
I think same as any other therapist, I work with many different kind of issues, but my majority of my clients are having some kind of physical issues. When I started, I sort of specialized or niched in migraines. So migraines are a neurological disorder, not something you would think psychotherapy can help with. But I had horrendous migraines, which is how our niche picks us, right?
Yeah.
And so after I finished training with RTT, I learned a lot about migraines. So not there, different other places. So I had many clients who have migraines. But also autoimmune disorders, or so physical issues are most common for me to work with. Weight loss or stop smoking, that's kind of typical for hypnotherapists, but also, as I said, autoimmune disorders or migraine, or of course, anxiety and depression that comes like hand in hand. So
yeah. Would you share with us maybe your most spectacular case or the case that really stands out for you for whatever reason?
I think there are many. Maybe some of my migraine clients. I had a client who had migraine for 30 or 40 years. And we had only one session. And so she had like kind of episodic migraines that come like once a month, but when it hits, it takes like 4 or 5 days until that's how long. So it was very, very challenging for her to hold on job. So she worked as a flight attendant. So it was really, really hard. But then we had our session, and it was a spectacular session. And I was following up with her for about a year or so. And she never had a migraine after that, never ever. And she literally told me that I gave her extension of life. So that's something that stays with me, really.
Yeah.
Um,
You
but I
actually gave
had,
her a life because she was in like surviving her migraines. It was the migraine gave
yeah,
her life. She was,
yeah.
and
I,
yeah.
I had a client, for example, with a frozen shoulder, could not move her shoulder at all, or pick up a bag or reach anything, nothing. And after a session, literally, it's not even 2 minutes after the session, she just tried to lift her hand, and it was like, I cannot believe I couldn't do this for years. So those magical things happen, not always, unfortunately, but they happen. They do happen. Some people need longer time, but for some people work very quickly. But in either case, work much faster than maybe just doing some physical rehabilitation or doing only psychotherapy. So
So do you have a magic wand? What's the magic secret? How do you explain this spectacular, instantaneous transformations and healing?
um it's hard to explain or put it in one definition. So there is no, I cannot say there is only one way to do it. Every session is very different, and I think the most important thing is that as a therapist, tune into the client, allow the client to guide you, to let you in. So it's hard for us therapists not to, oh, I have to do this, or I have to fix, or I have to heal that person. And whenever we start with that, there's always some kind of resistance. It never works. It works, but much slower. Never works as well. But when we kind of relinquish any control, just allow client be there with them through the process, then magic things happen. It's all in them. It's not so much in us, as much as we would love it, I think. But it's just creating that secret space where they can feel safe to dive in and discover themselves. That's what brings them to healing, I believe.
You just anticipated my next questions because I was about to ask what's the secret, and I was also meaning to ask what are your biggest challenges, let's say, as a therapist? And I'm asking this because, as you know, I made it my mission to help junior therapists and people who are trained in many therapy modalities who still didn't really make that brave, that courageous jump into their practice. And I know I've been there for many years. I've studied so many different psychotherapy modalities. And until I found hypnotherapy, I didn't feel that I'm well equipped to help people the way I believed it's possible. And then I see this in my community. People study so many different modalities and then they never move into practice. And it's to a large extent, it's about their own healing, which is all good and nice, but you don't train for your own healing. You go to a therapist for your own healing. And because that is part of my mission, I really want to encourage people who feel called, because I believe this is a calling. This is not just a job. I'm going to become a therapist because I need a job to make money. No, that's not how it works. This is a calling. This is a sole purpose, and that's how I look at it. It's a sole purpose. So the whole purpose of these interviews, this series of interviews, is to show people that it's possible, and people with all kinds of backgrounds who are committed to their own healing and to then helping others heal, learning from their own lessons, learning from their own life journey and healing journey, the wounded healer journey, the famous Jungian expression. And of course, because I'm so excited about what I do, just as you are, I don't want to present only the rosy part of it, because it does change your life when you live your sole purpose. It absolutely changes the quality of your life and your motivation to wake up in the morning. But again, on my own skin, I also know that there are challenges and there are things that I never considered before I actually moved full-time into practice. So if you'd like to share, what would be your biggest lessons or your biggest challenges, and how do you overcome them?
There are always challenges. And this particular work requires you to stretch in many directions. And you may think you have to stretch in this way by learning and learning and learning, but every case will add some stretching of you in some other way. So how to be flexible, how to be soft, how to be adjustable, I think is more important than, not more important, equally important as training, as we say, soft skills. With every client, you will grow. And every growth is painful. And it's not always pleasant, but it's so incredibly satisfying. And I noticed that also with psychologists and coaches, there's a lot of like lack of confidence is like so prevalent. I think they're like the most vulnerable group of people, coaches and therapists. And they always look for that one person, that one modality, that one solution. And obviously there are so many on the market. You are the one. You are that one. You are that tool. And everything you learn, some of it you will use, some of it you will realize, okay, this is not for me. That's also a learning. You will keep learning. You will keep taking new modalities, and that's okay. Keep developing, keep learning. We have to keep doing that, because this is not, like how it was 20 years ago. But how to develop that trust in yourself, that's why we need therapy as therapists. Because we will always doubt ourselves. So that's why we all need another person, objective person, to help us see what we don't see. So yeah, that's continuous challenge. Yeah. Because growth is happening all the time, and growing pains are something you get used to.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with you about this. Probably coaches, therapists, psychologists are one of the most vulnerable group in this sense,
Yes.
because these are professions where you really need to study a lot and learn a lot. And the more you learn, the more you see how much is out there that you don't know. And it's there is that imposter syndrome on one hand, and then it's the opposite, the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, which describes people who know so little that they think they know everything and they're very competent. So we have the opposite challenge. The more we learn, the more we qualify, the more we realize there's so much more to learn. And of course, there is the healthy side of it where, yeah, I would say that at least the two of us, we do have a learning identity. And I see many people in this profession having a learning identity. So always wanting to learn something more. And that's the good side of it. And then, yeah, then it's all because it's human, no matter how much we know and we understand how it works in principle, that we do not heal anyone. This is not a passive act that you give something to someone. No, this is healing is a co-created experience. It's that common space where you and the client, the therapist and the client do that teamwork that leads to healing.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's only this much that can be resolved right now because the psyche just cannot take more, and subconscious will always make sure that you only handle as much as you can handle, really. And you touched upon an important point, and one thing that for which I always quote you is you said once in our intervision group, intervision being a group supervision program for brief therapy practitioners and hypnotherapists, and you were a member of it for the first iteration. And in the intervision group, when we were discussing a case, we were discussing one of our colleagues' experience, and she was saying, on one hand, I want this. It was about working together with a bigger organization that would bring a lot of that would bring a lot of opportunities and visibility. And she was saying, on one hand, I really want that, and I can see how much this will bring and clients and visibility. And on the other hand, I dread that phone call that they will say yes, because, oh my God, I really need to step up and I need to up my game and I need to, it's a whole different level. And I will never forget your response to that. You said, just give yourself the time and the grace and, in a way, the self-compassion to become the person that would do that job with ease. And you said it better than me, so
I don't remember how I said it, but
I thought this is very wise, and this is very it's very valid for our experience as a therapist, but also as a client, because we tend to compare. It's like often we were raised by comparison, and other kids are doing it better, or other kids are having good grades, or I mean, comparison is just it's like so ingrained in, and look at social media. So there is that virus of comparison, and we always want more and we want something else. And I really love that notion of allow yourself the time and the space to become the person that would do this with ease.
yeah, I think it's always about growth. You know, whenever you feel stretched in a way, it's going to be painful. And of course, the first logical response is, I don't want to do this. It's not logical, it's actually subconscious, like, and it's okay to do that. But if that thought, I want to do it, persists, if it's still calling you, it's okay, tip your fingers just a little bit and see how it goes. And I often when I talk with my clients, but colleagues as well, when you look behind how many of similar situations you already had in life, exactly like that, where you were terrified, oh, how will I do it? No way I can do it. And then you do it, and then like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. And then you forget about it. And then you just go forward. Again, how will I do this? But you forgot you already did that before. Not exactly the same thing, but you had similar experience. So when I thought of myself, how would I possibly go to Japan? My goodness, who does that? Like for me, that's like the simplest thing. How would I pass an exam in Japanese at Japanese university? My goodness, absolutely impossible. Then I did one, and then after you do one, then others are okay. And there are always hurdles, but we tend to always be afraid of what's going to happen instead of, just looking for some proof in what we already did. And we all did amazing things before we came to this place.
Yeah, and that's what I often tell my colleagues, therapists who I work with. It's success already. There are parts in your life where you overcame massive challenges. It's just that it became normal and you forgot about it. So whenever you are in front of a new mountain, you feel like, oh my God, I can't climb up that mountain.
Exactly.
But you have to remember, look back and remember how many similar mountains you already overcome. And this is also one of the reasons why I set up the intervision program, because I know when I moved into practice, although I had over 20 years of working as a psychologist and working in law enforcement, so it's pretty much serious stuff. But I felt the need, and then I'm also educated in this mind frame of the fact that as a therapist, you do need your own therapist, and it's not really it's more like and or, because it's not the same role, or a supervisor a mentor, or a group of peers where you can just come and talk about the cases anonymously, of course. This is one of the basic rules. And also where a place where we feel safe to come with what our mind defines as failures, because it's inevitable. And I wanted to say this earlier, and somehow I got diverted, that yes, we will have cases where we don't have that spectacular healing that you mentioned earlier. And no matter how much we know that this is teamwork, it's inevitable that we feel disappointed and we start questioning ourselves. And I think even after 30 years of practicing as a therapist, when you have that disappointment, it's not easy. It's not easy to process it and to go through it without questioning your ability as a therapist. And that's why I set up the intervision group, because there is that saying, be the one, and I don't remember who said it, be the one you needed when you were younger, or something like this. So because I didn't find that in the hypnotherapy community, I have a network of supervisors and mentors in my psychotherapy community, and but I was looking for something similar in the hypnotherapy community, and this is why I created the intervision. So I cannot not use the opportunity to ask you, how was your experience of the intervision group?
Oh my God, that was just spectacular in every way. It just came, your announcement, when I was looking for one. As you say, in hypnotherapy, it's not requirement to have supervision. While in any other therapy modalities, it is a requirement. Maybe not in every, but in most of modalities, it is a requirement. So I was already working as a hypnotherapist for several years without having that sounding board, without having somebody tell me, you could do this maybe different way, or how do you feel about that, or you know, those years of therapy experience that you don't process. You don't get to process your own feelings. And being a therapist is lonely. You're lonely, you're alone all the time. And when you speak with somebody, it's about them. It's never about you. So what do you do with those feelings? They just stay there. It depends of our self-care practices, but still. So supervision came as like sunny sky when you offered that for the first time. So then, of course, I jumped in. It was a no-brainer, and it was so rich experience, rich in many ways. Obviously, we share our cases and we discuss our cases and we support each other, but also a lot of things that you bring in from, for example, what was very impressive for me when you went to a trauma conference or hypnotherapy conference, and then you just bring us the newest, the most like top-notch research or some new foundings or new I don't know, tools or something like that. So we could learn that from you, and that was very, very enriching. Yeah. So
Thank you. The other thing that I find, because the way I'm trying to create the atmosphere in this intervision group is really that's why I call it intervision and not supervision, because I frame it as really peer supervision. And what I found very powerful, seeing the growth of some of the members, you are probably the most experienced one and the most advanced practitioner in the group, in the subgroup where you were. But what I noticed is that because everyone is invited to give feedback when you present a case, everyone gives their own take, their own views on how you tackled it and how it worked and what would they do. And I find that is very powerful, especially for beginner therapists, because they get to realize by seeing others' cases and by seeing that they are very capable of having a clear understanding and a good position and a good intervention proposal, that they realize that they know much more that they actually give themselves credit for. Because, of course, when it's our own case and we are emotionally attached to it, regardless of there is a therapist objectivity, but you want the success, you want the healing for your client. So, and sometimes, as you said earlier, this sort of stays in the way of us being the best version of our therapist self in the therapy room. And I experienced that myself. And then when you have an objective pair of eyes that is not attached to the outcome, even if it's a fresh therapist who maybe didn't have the hundreds of cases that you had, but they experience themselves as being very able and competent and capable to have a very sound, trying to avoid the word advice, but feedback, to your case. And that's also part of the learning and the growing in the intervision group.
Yeah, definitely. So less experienced therapists, they come fresh from school. So their knowledge is like, very fresh. And they have more like a newer information that maybe I didn't have. Because as therapy modality grows, it develops different tools that, for example, I was not aware of when somebody just come directly from school, then they are very enthusiastic, and then they are very how to say, it's easy for them to remember things and to remember interventions, and it's very easy. But if you have more experience, you kind of get used to working in a particular way. and that becomes your style. And maybe you forget other things, or maybe you think, okay, maybe I don't need that. And that's also dangerous in a way, because you become very I don't know, maybe not one-sided, but you create your own routine, and that's not very good, because you lose that edge. So having that combination of very young therapists and a little bit more experienced therapists, because we kind of feed each other, we really help each other. So that was really great.
Yeah, that's exactly my experience. Yeah, about the intervision group, and that's what I think it's the power of it. So, what are you working on right now? Are you preparing any special offers or any special programs, or what's ahead? What are the highlights ahead in terms of your work? And I will also post the links to your website underneath,
okay,
so people know where to find you.
Okay, so I will be participating in this live event. You know, from when I attended Intervision, how I was like, I have to do live event. Now it's third one, and like nothing. You see, I am so relaxed. Like I already did it. I did it twice only, but this is much bigger event. But I'm still so even and not at all like disturbed or anxious. So there will be event in Kyoto next month. So that's 9th, I think, Saturday or Sunday. There'll be some, they call that pre-expo. There's big expo event that is happening in Osaka somewhere in summer maybe, or spring. I'm not sure. They built whole city just for that expo. But this event is called pre-expo. So it's something like to invite people to Kyoto. And event is artistic mainly. But I'll be there introducing my practice, and I'll be having some busy workshop, and I'm not even sure what's going to be there. It depends, on the atmosphere. So that's a big thing that's happening soon. And then I'm also getting back to my research roots, and I will most likely start doing some research related to menopause, and I am looking forward to that. Yeah, so that's
Wow,
for
very
me.
Yeah, and I think that is very important, definitely, because I mean, there is a lot of research in clinical hypnotherapy, but as regards rapid transformational therapy, that has amazing success as a method. And I always say this is a trauma-informed method as a hypnotherapy method, but there isn't enough research. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence. But there is not enough research to show it. It just needs to be made explicit. So it needs people like you who actually know how to carry out research and who are willing to dedicate their time to that, to demonstrate how powerful hypnotherapy is and how powerful hypnosis is on physical issues as well as
Plenty of studies about
psychological.
effectiveness of hypnotherapy on physical issues. Plenty of studies. It's just depends what do you read, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are like bazillion of studies. If you start digging, you will keep finding more and more and more and more. So
Yeah.
it's just maybe nobody frames it as RTT, but it's why would we frame it as RTT? Because it makes it very narrow in that sense, right? It's
a
just
good
something.
point.
RTT is just a brand of hypnotherapy. So it's not that much different. I think there are various kinds. So
Yeah, true. And that's a valid point. It's Yeah, it is. It is the power of hypnosis. It is about the power of hypnotherapy. And when you were talking about the big event in Kyoto, the pre-expo,
Pre-expo, yeah.
yeah, I was thinking that's exactly an illustration of you growing into the person that is doing that with
Exactly.
ease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I remember the discussions. I remember the first discussions. Oh my God, I have to go to this event, and yeah, that's how we grow.
Yeah,
That's
so
how we
much
challenge.
anxiety, so much worries. What will I do? How will I do? What will I prepare? What will I say? Like so much anxiety because I never did that like live, and then I did it once, and then first half an hour you're anxious, then you just get into the groove, and after that is like I did it bazillion times. Then I remember how many times I held workshops in a class, million times. How many times I gave lecture in a classroom, million times. Why would this be any different? But still, it feels different until you start doing it.
Yeah,
So
because the mind frames it as a new event, and
exactly.
that's my ethos when I work
Mm-hmm.
with junior
Mm-hmm.
therapists. It's like, this is not about you becoming me, or you becoming Marissa Peer, or you becoming Paul McKenna, or Michael Yapko. It's you finding your way of being you, finding your skills, because it's a matter of remembering that we have so many skills that we used before in different contexts, and these are all transferable skills. As you mentioned, yeah, how many times were you teaching? We have people in the group who are business women who run
Mm-hmm.
quite significant businesses, uh,
Mm-hmm.
even in fields that are not traditionally seen as fields where a woman would run a
Mm-hmm.
business, would be a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Were very successful and
Mm-hmm.
completely forgot the fact that you know success, your cells know success, your
Mm-hmm.
mind knows success and recognize it. This is not new and unfamiliar to your mind. You just have to remember that you have the skills and put them to good use in a new context, and yeah, make it your own way, make it you, make it
Yeah.
your way.
There's so many facets we
Yeah,
all have. Every experience is a treasure.
yeah. And there is one thing that I would like to ask you, and because I wonder if this is a common experience to you, but to me, many times I've had hypnotherapists telling me, well, it's easy for you to say, easy for you to be successful because you're a psychologist, because you have a psychology degree, but I can't now start and studying the 20 years that you did. And I always have my counter arguments to that, because being a psychologist means one set of skills. Being a researcher, so having a PhD, that's a very specific set of skills that are not necessarily skills that you use in a therapy room. Maybe some of the knowledge you do, but it's a completely different set of skills than being a therapist. So, and again, that's my ethos, and my passion, encouraging therapists to really find their way and find their strengths, because we don't want to be mini copies of our teachers. We take from all our teachers, and I'm so grateful for the teachers that came my way and from whom I learned, and I'm taking something of each of them further, but I'm making it my own. So I wonder what would you say to that, and I wonder if this happened to you, if you were told that in any way you were privileged, and success comes easy to you. These are all
Ah,
limiting beliefs, because you have a psychology degree. So, what is your experience?
well, now that you mention limiting beliefs, my limiting beliefs was I can never do therapy in any other language than Serbian. There you go.
Yeah,
And that's it. Um, I don't think about that anymore. I don't think even can I do therapy in Serbian? No, sometimes I have Serbian speaking clients who remind me I can do it in Serbian as well, but I always do it in English. Even I mix Japanese into it. So that's something that was limiting literally me for decades. Because how can I?
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned, am I privileged? I don't think, I don't know, privileged. As I said at the beginning, I don't know anything else. I studied psychology all my life. And sometimes maybe it's my personality. It can be, that can get in the way. But as you said, the more you study, the more you feel you don't know. And I have met a therapist who only had RTT training and did something completely different, never had any psychology lessons, never. They are so confident and great therapist with great intuition. Well, from my perspective, minimum knowledge. That was my perspective then, before. But then you see, there are less things getting in their way. And that is actually, they can be laser focused because other things don't get in the way. But if you have training in this modality, that modality, this modality, this training, this edition, this workshop, and then you have sometimes difficulty to pick what do I need now in this very moment. And that makes me remember a friend of mine. So she is a translator. She translates big events, speaking events, not writing, but speaking. And she can speak 4 languages. And when she was learning, they told her never have more than 2,000 words in either language, because speed is necessary. And if you have 10,000 words, it takes longer time to respond. So I wonder whether all these trainings sometimes make us a little slower or give that space for doubt. So that's just, as I said, maybe it's just, my personality that, I'm, thinking about those things, but I don't think it's advantage. It is definitely advantage to have good background in psychology, but it's not everything, definitely. I think intuition is very important in this work. And also, how to say, tame your ego so it doesn't get in the way. And I think those are really important principles that each therapist should take.
I love this. I love this. Yeah, your intuition and tame your ego. And I would add to that, which is at the root of both of what you said, which I wholeheartedly agree, that intuition and taming your ego, because the ego is the one who is attached to the outcome. The ego is the one who's crushed if we didn't have 150% success, besides, of course, the normal wish to help, to provide the help that is needed. And I would say the way to get there, the way to listen to our intuition, is by healing our own wounds. The way to tame our ego is to have that level of awareness and self-awareness, because we need ego. I'm all about not demonizing the ego. Ego is a mechanism that is needed in governing your life. But then you manage the ego, not the ego managing you. And to both these things, we only arrive when we have had enough of healing and enough of therapy ourselves. And we will never be the perfect humans, because there's no such as, only when we die, maybe. But we need to be healed enough. And that's what I'm always saying. Also, don't wait until you'll be that perfect human to become a therapist, because you'll never get that, and you'll
something else will come up. Life is going on. life is going
Yeah.
on, so things come up all the
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah, and it is the wounded healer journey that brought you to even want to become a therapist and to want to share the healing and the learning with other people. And it is very important that the wounded healer is not bleeding on other people, but is
oh
healed
yes.
enough
Mhm.
to be able to have that self-awareness and that clear connection to the intuition and managing ourselves, because yeah, we are just as humans with just the same challenges.
Self-management is the key.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay,
Indeed.
we are
Yes.
approaching the end of this, and I just love this very relaxed and fun conversation. And any final words, anything that you'd like to tell as a word of advice or of inspiration to people who maybe look at you with so much admiration and dream
Oh, are there
one
some?
day they will become a therapist.
Write me, call me. No, what I just, if you have this desire, please, please try. Please try. Please do it. Because I don't know who said that. I cannot credit a particular person, whether it's a book or it's just a meme on the internet. I don't know. But our desires come from a different place. They come from higher place. They're planted in us. And when we have a desire, it's a sign for us that we have to listen. So listen to that. Listen to that voice. So it's scary. It's always going to be scary. But you already did so many scary things in your life, and you're still here. So give it a shot. Try it. And if you realize it's not for you, okay, then you know you tried it. And that's okay. But don't let the desire goes to ether without, being realized or being even, paid attention to. So listen to that voice. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. And yeah, I used to say that our desires and impulses are like signposts from destiny that or from a higher intelligence that are like, like the bread crumbles for Hansel and Gretel that are like signaling the way ahead. And I love there is a quote from Joseph Campbell that I won't be able to quote it in its integrality, but he's saying, I have this superstition that there are invisible hands helping me the moment I decided to step into my purpose and to live my soul purpose. And I can definitely say this is my experience as well. I feel like, and I viscerally feel that what I do now as a therapist is living my soul purpose. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And I made it my mission to encourage people to do the same, because I really feel this invisible hands helping me, bringing ideas my way, facilitating my creativity, sending people my way, sending clients. So speaking of that, how would your potential clients find you? Where would they find you?
Website.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say internet, of course. Well, I'm on Facebook mainly, or not that I am that very active in terms of social media, but I am, let's say, reasonably active on Facebook, and website I think is good. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm
So,
easy to find. Just I think I'm the only one with this name in the world.
and you do work online. You work
Yeah,
online.
yes,
So you
yes,
can
yes.
be,
I work only online. Yes.
we don't have to come to Japan to see you, although we might really love to do that one day.
Yes, please come to see my Rainbow Bridge, and yeah, So thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I feel privileged for being first in this long series of interviews.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mira, and all the best of success and inspiration in and you becoming with ease and grace
Mm,
who you are meant to be and who you truly are. Then
that's where we are all going, right?
an
To
extraordinary
become,
therapist.
yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.